This is the school board meeting of November 22nd, 2016. It is my privilege as superintendent to chair the school board meeting until such time as a chairman is selected for the coming year. The first order of business is for the administration of the oath of office. The Honorable Judge Majid will administer the oath to our new board members, Ms. Tina Deskovich, District 3, and Mr. Matthew Susan, District 4.
Before I call up the parties to administer the oath, come on up. I'll make a few brief remarks. The members of the school board, I'm Judge A.B. Majid. I wish to emphasize, which you are well aware of, that you have a remarkable responsibility. You are the stewards of our children and of our grandchildren. And it's very incumbent upon you to make decisions, and the decisions you make really do make a pauper become a king. I can tell you that I myself, when I was growing up, my parents did not have the benefit of any formal education. Never went one day to school. Yet, their first child was #1 in his medical class. And they were able to bring up children who have a master's degree in chemistry, who was a doctor, who was a judge, etc. And so better than anyone else probably in this room, I'm well aware that education is the greatest equalizer of all. With an education, a pauper can become a millionaire, and a beggar can become a king. And so I trust that with those few words, you will go about your task very seriously and very happily. We're going to take an oath about the Constitution, and each and every one of us are very lucky every day to wake up under the Constitution, because it is the Constitution that provides us an opportunity to drink our fill from the cup of freedom and liberty and justice every day. And so now, if you will step forward. We have Ms. Tina Deskovich. If you will step forward, and if you will just come there. And you want some family members, loved ones, to step forward and join you.
My husband and children, please.
Husband and children step forward, and anyone who didn't vote for her also can step forward. All right, so would you swear or would you affirm? Would it make a difference to you? We said, do you swear or affirm? Does it matter? All right, so I'm going to ask you, Julie, now.
Swear.
You will, if you please raise your right hand. We have a Bible. If you want to use a Bible or not, we can borrow Matthew's Bible. All right. Now, it's Matthew's Bible. The Bible is not by Matthew, however. Okay.
You want to hold the Bible for me? You got it?
All right, you have it there? Okay, if you'll raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Tina Deskovich, do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
protect,
and defend the Constitution
the Constitution
and government
and government
of the United States and
of the United States
and
and
of the state
of the state
of Florida,
and
that I am
duly qualified
to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
and
that I will
that I will
well
do I need to see the words?
W-E-L-L,
That I will
and faithfully perform the duties
the duties
of school board member. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations and best
Thank you.
wishes to you
Thank you.
and your lovely family.
Thanks for holding the Bible, bud.
Now your duties officially begin.
Thank you
right?
so much, sir.
Thank you. And we'll call up Matthew. And you have anyone you'd like to join you?
Come on, babe.
Babe, was Babe here? And there better be one babe.
It was baby.
Oh, okay.
It was baby.
Oh, two babes and we're in trouble. All right. Anyone else?
That's it.
All right. You want to hold the Bible and let him put his hand on that?
Sure.
All right.
Ready?
If you please raise your right hand, please. I, Matthew Susan,
Susan,
do solemnly
do solemnly
swear
swear
that
that
I will support,
I will support,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and government
and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of
and of
the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
that
that
I am
I am
duly qualified
duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully
well and faithfully
perform
perform
the duties
the duties
of school board member.
of school board member.
So help me God.
So help me God.
With that, sir, you're duly sworn to assume your responsibilities. Good luck to you and best wishes. God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Hey,
And he just kissed the next president of the United States of America. Thank you, sir. Good luck to you. And you have to sit there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and best wishes to each and every one of you. Thank you for having me.
and Judge Majid, congratulations on your soon-to-be retirement at the end of December, correct?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your service to this county.
I'm not retired yet, but my wife starts to refer to me already as the late Judge Majid.
Thank you very much, Judge Majid. We appreciate your time and willingness to be part of the swearing-in ceremony. Welcome to our new board members, Mrs. Deskovich and Mr. Susan. Give them another round of applause. Pam, roll call, please.
Mrs. Belford?
Present.
Mr. Craig?
Present.
Mrs. Deskovich?
Present.
Mr. Susan?
Present.
And Mr. Ziegler.
Here.
Michelle Irwin, Assistant Superintendent of Government and Community Relations, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That brings us to the organization of the board. First, we need to elect a chairman for this coming year, at which time the person elected will assume the responsibility as the chair. The chairman will then elect other officers and appoint individuals to committees where board representation is required or expected in various organizations across the county and in the state. Before we begin, I have asked Attorney Harold Beislein to explain this process and to facilitate the remainder of the process.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Board members, we follow Robert's Rules of Order. Pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order for the election of the chairman of the board, the presiding official will be the superintendent, who will call for nominations. Any board member who wishes to make a nomination should call out. The first person to call out will be the number one nominator. I will tell the superintendent who was the first nominator. I will then ask for if there are any other nominations for the office of chairman. If there are, then I will receive the nominations in the order in which they're made. If there are not, then we will proceed to the first one who was called and hold a vote. If that person gets 3 votes, that person will be elected to chair. If it doesn't, then we'll go on to the number 2 and so forth. No seconds are required. So at this time, I would ask if there are any nominations for the office of chairman of the school board for the ensuing year.
Misty Belford.
Misty Belford. Do I hear any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I'll close the nominations and ask if there be a unanimous vote from Misty Belford to be chairman of the school board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
That officially ends my 5 minutes of fame here. So I will call a short recess to have the technology reconfigured to accommodate the needs of the new chairman. Thank you.
That turns it on permanently.
Oh, well.
Welcome back. At this time, I'll open the floor to nominations for vice chairman. Mr. Beislein, we need a second on that, or? No second required. Okay, so you call for a vote, or would?
I'd
you want
ask
me
if there are
to?
any other nominations for the position.
Any other nominations for the position of vice chair? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Craig. Probably for the sake of our new board members having access to individuals with whom they can have communication, we probably should do a quick rearrange. Mr. Craig, I think it is tradition for you to be in this seat as vice chair. Ms. Deskovich, if you would switch with Mr. Ziegler, so you can have access to the board attorney if you have questions. And then Mr. Susan, if you would switch with Mr. Craig. Thank you. Okay. As everyone gets logged back in, the next item on the agenda is to designate the date, time, and place of regular and special monthly meetings, with exceptions. Dr. Blackburn?
Mrs. Belford, it is my recommendation for the board to adopt the dates, times, and places for these meetings as listed on the attached meeting date schedule.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. All right, that opens it for discussion. Mr. Craig?
So I was wondering if the January date was, it caught me off guard. And I wanted to see if we could move that date to the next week, which is the I believe the 24th. I forgot that, I thought we did 2nd and 4th in January as well, and I for some reason forgot we only had one meeting in January, so I was hoping we could do it on the 4th.
Pam, do you know if we have any conflicts with that? I know that you had kind of massaged the dates.
We just normally have it that third Tuesday.
Mr. Ziegler?
I'm fine. I'll move to amend the calendar with the January being moved to the 24th.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the January meeting being moved to the 24th. Do we have a second?
Second.
Pam, do you need a voice vote on that, or can we? All right, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So Mr. Ziegler's reminding me that we voted on the amendment to the motion. Now we have to vote on the motion itself. And we can do that on the screen, right, Pam? Okay. So if board members would please vote. Maybe. All right, we're going to have to do a voice vote on that one. All in favor?
It's not working.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, Pam. Okay. Next, we need to appoint board representatives to various committees for the upcoming year. I believe you all have the list of committees that we need to do appointments for. There are several that there's been some history. Board members have been in place on those committees for some time, but I think also there are some opportunities for some changes. Probably the best way is if I just announce the committee that we're referencing, and if anyone wants to volunteer for that committee, we can certainly make that change. Otherwise, we can talk about who might be a best fit. So I am currently the representative for the League of Cities. Is there anyone that would like to be? I know, Mr. Ziegler, you typically attend those meetings anyway.
I do, but I'd like to see a new board member participate in that.
Okay. Mr. Susan would like to do Florida League of Cities. Okay. Next one is Brevard County Values Adjustment Board. The previous board appointee on that one was Ms. Nisi. Andy Ziegler was the alternate. Mr. Ziegler, did you want to move into primary, or would you like to offer that to someone else?
I will if nobody else wants it, but I don't have any desire. I've done it many years.
I'll take that one.
All right. Ms. Deskovich will be the appointee for the Brevard County Values Adjustment Board. The third, and an alternate for that one, Mr. Ziegler, you want to stay as alternate?
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you, Pam. The third one is the Professional Development Council. That was previously held by Ms. Nisi. Anyone interested in participating on the Professional Development Council?
I probably should have asked, but can anybody explain what that is exactly?
No, I've never served on it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's something that meets very often.
Do we know if that's an internal committee, Pam? Okay, so who is our board champion for HR? Tina?
That would be me.
So since that is an HR committee, would you like to take that one?
Yes, I'll take it.
Great, thank you. Next is the Federal Relations Subcommittee. Formerly, Mrs. Henderson was appointed to that committee. Would anyone like to volunteer for that? Mr. Craig, excellent. And that brings us to Brevard Cultural Alliance. Mr. Craig, you're the current board appointee for Brevard Cultural Alliance. Would you like to stay with that, or would you like to offer that up to someone else?
I'm happy to offer it up.
All right. Anyone else interested in Brevard Cultural Alliance?
Not for that reason. It's pretty.
All right, Mr. Susan. Central Florida Public School Boards Coalition, Mr. Ziegler, you are currently the primary with Mr. Craig as the alternate. I'm assuming since you are chair of that committee next year, you would like to maintain?
Yeah, they would probably keep order in Central Florida. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to be chair next year.
Yes. And Mr. Craig, would you like to stay as alternate on that one?
Yes.
Okay. Brevard Schools Foundation, Mr. Craig, you're the current appointee. Would you like to maintain, or?
I would like to maintain if there's no objection.
That brings us to the
We
heads.
should have an alternate for the foundation.
Yes, I would agree.
I was the alternate, but not listed.
Okay.
Maybe one of the new board members would like to be an alternate.
I'm happy to do it.
All right, that brings us to the Head Start Committee. Ms. Nisi was previously on that committee, leaving that open for anyone who would be interested. Matt? Next is the FSBA Legislative Liaison. Ms. Henderson was the primary on that, with me as the alternate. She did ask, since I've been working with her in that capacity, that I move to the primary on that committee, which I am fine doing if you all support that.
I think that's a good idea. That way there's some continuity.
Okay, so then we just need an alternate for the FSBA Legislative Committee. Mr. Craig. That brings us to the FSBA Board of Directors. Mr. Ziegler, your primary, Mr. Craig, alternate. Do you want to maintain that, Mr. Ziegler, or is that something that the current chair needs to?
I will only if nobody else wants it.
Anyone else? You are welcome to that one. And Mr. Craig, alternate on that one? Okay. Next, we have our Choice and Charter School Liaison, previously Amy Nisi. My recommendation would probably be, since that falls within my objective profile, that I shift into that position, but I'm not If anyone else is really interested in it, you are welcome to it.
Well, that works for me.
Okay. School-Age Child Care Committee was formerly Ms. Henderson's committee, so that one is open. Mr. Susan would like that one. Superintendent's Advisory Committee, I have been on that committee. I am happy to continue with them, or if anyone else would prefer, I would be more than happy to share. I don't want to be greedy, but they're a good group.
If you want it, you could keep it. If not, I'll do it.
Totally
Chairman's
up
choice.
to- Chairperson's choice.
Person, all right, I've been corrected.
If you would like to work with them for a while, Mr. Ziegler, that's perfectly fine with me. I anticipate that I will have plenty going on my plate in the new role. Next, we have the Capital Outlay Committee. I have been the board appointee on that committee as well. Are you facilities chair? So that would probably be a great fit for you, Matt, if you're willing. And the last one is the FSBA Advocacy Subcommittee, which kind of backs up to the legislative liaison for FSBA. So I have been the appointee there. I'm more than happy to continue that if you all are comfortable with it.
You also will be the ex officio board member on the audit committee.
Yes. Advocacy Committee, I'm going to keep. My pleasure. You got the rest of them, Pam? Okay, perfect. All right, that brings us to board authorization. Dr. Blackburn.
It is a requirement to authorize the superintendent to have signature facsimiles made of the chairman and superintendent to be used for signing checks, and also to approve the continued use of the current signature facsimiles for district checks until new facsimiles are received. A motion and vote of the board is required for this issue.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
And that should bring us to a vote, but I'm not getting it. Is yours working? Oh, discussion? No discussion? Yeah, mine's not working either. Okay, we'll do a voice vote on that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This brings us to recognition of visitors. Before we move further, I'd like to offer my fellow board members the opportunity to recognize staff, students, or community members. Any recognitions? Mr. Ziegler?
I have the honor of recognizing a student that had worked with me for a few years. I had convened a student advisory council with students from high schools and middle schools who gave me some guidance that I then would bring to the board. Many of those things I brought to the board were of interest to the board and actually grew legs and went somewhere. And tonight we have with us the student, Luke Redito. He is a graduate of West Shore in 2013. He's now attending the U.S. Naval Academy, and is it a midshipman? Is that correct? And he filled out a card to public speak, and we'd like to extend you the opportunity to come address us right now as our special guest.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Midshipman Second Class Luke Redito, and I'm currently a junior at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. I will graduate and commission as an officer in the United States Navy or United States Marine Corps on May 25th, 2018, and I aspire to become a Navy pilot. I graduated from West Shore in 2013 and then did a year at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville before I was fortunate enough to gain an appointment to the United States Naval Academy class of 2018. I would like to talk tonight about the profound impact that educators have had on my life. I was born and raised in Melbourne, Florida, growing up just 20 minutes down the road, and was fortunate to attend Brevard Public Schools for my primary and secondary education years. During that time, I've had numerous teachers that have had a positive influence on my life, and I would not be where I am today without them. I am by no measure an exceptional student, but rather have been fortunate to have teachers that were willing to go above and beyond and invest their time and believe in me in order to help me be successful down the road. I will never be able to repay all the educators and administrators that I've been blessed with. The school system is nothing without its teachers and students, and as board members, I encourage each and every one of you to never forget that when making decisions for the school system. Never forget the ones you lead. Never forget those teachers who live for teaching and strive to better students' lives that they touch each and every single day. Never forget that student who puts in countless hours of work in order to be successful in hopes of making a better life for him or herself. Make the system work for them, empower them, and support them. Never forget the ones you lead. I know that on Thursday, when I have the fortunate pleasure of breaking bread with the ones that I love the most, of all the things I'm thankful for, I will be forever grateful for the education that I received in the Brevard Public School system. I thank each and every one of you for your service, not only as lifelong educators, but also as leaders within the Brevard Public Schools family. Dare to make a difference. Dare to better your teachers and students. Dare to be the best leaders that you can be. And most importantly, dare to care. Just like all of the educators that I've been blessed with in my life, who never forgot me, never forget the ones you lead. Thank you all so very much for your time. Go Navy, beat Army, and happy Thanksgiving.
Wait a minute, wait, what? Hey, Luke.
Yes,
Hey, so first of all, thank you for representing my alma mater, and soon to be yours, so well, and our Navy.
you very much,
I
sir.
appreciate your dedication, and thank you. As somebody who's about to retire after 30 years, and I can't believe it went that fast. I look forward to watching you get through flight school and get the selection that you want. How many days till ring dance?
I believe it's 220, sir.
Outstanding. Beat Army, beat SMU.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Any other recognitions before we move on with the agenda? Okay, that brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
Chairman and members of the board, on the published agenda, we have an administrative staff recommendation, 2 recognition items, 1 proclamation, 1 presentation, 22 consent items, 3 action items, and 12 information items. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. Under the consent agenda, there is 1 addition, item F19, on student expulsions, and there are 2 revisions, item F30 on lease of Huntington Lane property to Brevard County, and item F37 on school resource officers, Anderson and Gulfview Elementary. On the information agenda, you have a revision to item H53 on school improvement plans and the deletion of the School Advisory Council membership report, also on the information agenda. I have 2 requests for the board to consider this evening. Item F21 on refunding the district's 2007A and 2007B certificates of participation needs to be approved prior to the time-certain leasing corp meeting. Mr. Beislein has advised that time certain denotes that the leasing corp meeting cannot take place before 6 p.m. It is, however, allowable for it to convene after that time. I would like to request that we delay the leasing corporation meeting until we conclude the consent agenda portion of the regular meeting. Also, Regarding the certificates of participation item, I would like to request that Penny Zerker, Chief Financial Officer, provide the board and viewing audience some information prior to the vote.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn. Does the board want to adopt the November 22nd, 2016 meeting agenda as proposed by Dr. Blackburn?
So moved.
Second.
That opens for discussion. No discussion needed? All right, please vote. Still not working, so we're going to do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Dr. Blackburn, will you please tell us about the administrative staff recommendations on tonight's agenda?
There is one recommendation for you to consider this evening.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
With your permission, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize one of our recent appointees. Please join me in welcoming Rivers Lewis, the new Director of Labor Relations. Mr. Lewis began with us on November 14. Mr. Lewis.
Madam Chair, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to join your team. I have over 10 years of experience working with employee relations and labor relations, as well as conducting investigations. I look forward to working with all of you as I use these skills to support the district's vision and mission. I would also like to thank Dr. Carol Kent for giving me the opportunity to join this team, and also to improve on my skills and my training, as well as making it possible for me to grow as a person. I would also like to thank my family. They cannot be here tonight. My wife is currently at work, so they have been very supportive over the last 10 to 15 years, and without them, I could not be here today. Thank you.
That brings us to recognition of visitors and awards.
There are two recognition items on this evening's agenda. Item B13 is the recognition of the District STEM Alliance winners. Barbara Rodriguez, Director of Middle School Programs, will make the introduction. Mrs. Rodriguez.
Good evening, Dr. Blackburn and board members and guests. This is the third year we are honoring some of our outstanding Brevard students for their accomplishments in mathematics and science through our partnership with the STEM Alliance. The STEM Alliance provides support for STEM education in Central Florida schools through classroom projects and teacher and student awards. The selection team has done an amazing job of identifying students and teachers, which we will recognize this evening. At this time, I normally would introduce Kim Bragg. To make these presentations, Kim is home ill this evening, so I am getting through the script as best as I possibly can. And students, I will tell you, if I mispronounce your names, I apologize ahead of time, and we'll get moving along. It is our pleasure here this evening to honor an outstanding group of students and teachers representing Brevard Public Schools as 2016 STEM Scholar honorees. As you know, the STEM Alliance Scholar Program is a cooperative effort between Brevard Public Schools and the Central Florida School Boards Coalition. It is financed through the efforts of area businesses and the private sector. This partnership has provided us with the opportunity to select students who have demonstrated achievement in science or mathematics, and teachers of science who have demonstrated excellence in their profession. Tonight, we will be honoring the 2016 STEM Alliance Student and Teacher Scholars of the Year. With us today from Central Florida School Boards Coalition and the STEM Alliance Project is Rafael Parra. We are honored to have him here with us this evening.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Rafael Parra, and I represent the STEM Alliance of Central Florida. First, thank you to Brevard Public Schools for partnering with us and supporting our mission for providing STEM within schools. Just to give a little bit of more background of who we are and what we do, we basically provide STEM programming at the K through 12 level. And the reasoning behind this is that research has shown to us that providing students with exposure to STEM at a young age, at an early age, at an early age, it shows that students will have an increased want for this as they decide to go to college and as they decide to pursue future careers. We have noticed that many companies are moving in the STEM fields to Central Florida region, but the issue is that they are recruiting from elsewhere, outside of the Central Florida region. So we would love for those jobs to stay here, and we would love for the students that grow here to have those jobs. So this is why we are doing our best to support STEM schools throughout the Central Florida region to increase the exposure and to make sure that students are recognized for their efforts in the STEM fields. So today, I would love to present these lovely awards to the students and teachers that support us in STEM Alliance of Central Florida and Brevard Public Schools. And thank you for your service.
Congratulations to the following students who are being recognized tonight as 2016 STEM Alliance Scholars for Brevard Public Schools. Students, as I call your name, please come forward to receive your award. Please remain standing in the front of the boardroom until all names are called and all the students have received their awards so we can take a group photo. Dr. Blackburn, Mrs. Belford, if you would join us, please. Nathan Fu, West Shore Junior Senior High School. Will Ganuski, Hoover Middle School. Alexander LaFortune, Cocoa Beach Junior Senior High School. Eliana Rosino, Delora Middle School. These are 8th graders representing. 9th grade, Noah Huff, Edgewood Junior Senior High School. Ritika Jaloka, Melbourne High School. Kishan Mitra, West Shore Junior Senior High School. Deegan Torello, Vieira High School. 10th grade, Logan Bolick, Bayside High School. Brendan Harcourt, Palm Bay High School. Lydia Howell, West Shore Junior Senior High School. Isabella Mark, Satellite High School. 11th grade, Muhammad Abdullah, West Shore Junior Senior High School. Abby Havel, Satellite High School. Julia Hoffman, Satellite High School. Harold Milgar, Palm Bay High School. Madeline Dale, Edgewood Junior Senior High School. Alexander Gabaleski, Vieira High School. Alexis Gerard, O'Galley High School. River Grace, West Shore Junior Senior High School. Some of you get in the front, please. Come on, don't be shy, come on. Some of you have to come in front. There you go. More than one. As long as we can see people behind you. Raphael, you in? Okay. Mrs. Belford? I want to once again congratulate all the student award winners on this special achievement and to thank your family members for their encouragement and support. We will now recognize our 2016 STEM Alliance Exemplary Teachers of the Year. Teachers, as I call your name, come forward to receive your award. And please remain standing in the front so we can take a picture as well. 2016 STEM Alliance Elementary Teacher of the Year, Beth Faulkner, Apollo Elementary School. (2016) STEM Alliance Secondary Teacher of the Year, Debbie Austin, Delora Middle School. Stop, 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 stop. Eat. Debbie, you'll be in the middle. Congratulations to the STEM Alliance Teacher Scholars of the Year for their continued commitment to inspire and motivate our students. And I thank again the members of the board, the superintendent, teachers, parents, and principals for their leadership in this regional effort to improve science and math education. I'd like to give a very special thank you to the STEM Alliance for their continued support of our outstanding math and science teachers and students. I'd also like to recognize the names of donors who have made these awards possible. Bright House Networks, I think is a new name now. Craig Technologies, Disney Corporation, Lockheed Martin Corporation, EA Sports, Core Operations, Engineering and Computer Simulations, FinFrock, Orlando Utilities Commission, University of Central Florida, University of South Florida. Thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Ziegler, I think you had a comment?
I wanted to congratulate you all, students and teachers. Brevard County has outstanding science accomplishments over the years. We have 2.6% of the students in the state, yet thanks to your success, we bring in over 30% of the science awards in the state. You're amazing, and I envy you all for what you've accomplished. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Keep up the great work.
Next is item B14, is recognition of Diane Gard, who was awarded the 2016 Kenneth P. Kidd Mathematics Educator of the Year on October 22nd at the Florida Council of Teachers of Mathematics. This award was established in 1976 to recognize an individual's outstanding contributions to mathematics education. Mrs. Klein, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Leading and Learning, will now recognize Ms. Gard for this accomplishment.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn and the board. With me tonight to assist is Ms. Tara Taylor, Director of Elementary Leading and Learning. We are very excited to recognize Ms. Gard's contributions to math education at both the district and the state level. Ms. Gard has been with the district for 23 years and has been the district elementary math resource teacher for almost 16 of those years. Ms. Gard works closely with our elementary teachers and administrators to provide support to our schools in the area of math education. She builds instructional capacity in the district through the creation of a math leadership team and provides ongoing professional development. She also works at the state level to review content and provide input to support best practices that maximize student learning. Dr. Blackburn and Ms. Belford, Board Chair, would you please join us? Ms. Diane Guard, congratulations. We are so proud of you and your efforts.
Dr. Blackburn, we are ready for the resolutions and proclamations.
Tonight, we have a proclamation declaring December 5 through the 9th, 2016 as Inclusive Schools Week. Mrs. Irwin, will you please read the proclamation for us?
Whereas the Florida Inclusion Network and schools around the nation have designated the week of December 5 through 9, 2016 as Inclusive Schools Week, and whereas Brevard Public Schools are committed to providing an education in schools and classrooms that are welcoming and capable of educating all children, and whereas the educators at Brevard Public Schools recognize that each child is unique, learns differently, and therefore learns better if teaching is tailored to their abilities and interests, and whereas the educators and families of Brevard Public Schools have been working hard to ensure that our classrooms and schools are characterized as being high-performing and inclusive, and whereas by their efforts to make our schools and classrooms high-performing and inclusive, the educators and families of Brevard Public Schools have contributed significantly to building a stronger and more inclusive community, and whereas the educators and families of Brevard Public Schools deserve to celebrate their successes and wish to reflect on how they might even further improve, therefore, be it resolved that Brevard Public Schools join the Florida Inclusion Network and schools, districts, and communities around the nation in declaring the week of December 5 through 9, 2016 as Inclusive Schools Week, and encourage schools and classrooms across our district to sponsor appropriate learning and community building activities in its recognition.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Is there any discussion? Mr. Craig?
I think, Dr. Theddy, were you going to, or somebody was going to talk? I had asked for just a very quick explanation of inclusion. I got to commend all of you on the efforts for inclusion in this district. Even a few short years ago, it was not at this level, and we're taking great strides. But it dawned on me that a lot of people may not understand exactly what we're even talking about when we talk about inclusion. So I just wanted a quick, and ask Dr. Theddy and Dr. Blackburn if we could just get a quick explanation of what this means and why it's important to us.
You got the whole team, Mr. Craig.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and we will make it brief. I want to introduce Tricia Frame, who will introduce a gentleman who works with us under the Florida Inclusion Network to make inclusion a reality for our students. And we appreciate the opportunity to speak about it very briefly because inclusion is really important to our students, to our teachers, and to our schools. So thank you. Tricia?
Good evening. Although inclusion is not specifically defined, least restrictive environment is defined in federal law and in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It states, to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities are educated with children who are non-disabled, and removal of children with disabilities from the regular educational environment occurs only if the nature or severity of the disability is such that education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. At this time, I'd like to introduce Bill Perlman, resource teacher for the Florida Inclusion Network, to explain Brevard's inclusion continuum of services and supports.
Thank you, Dr. Frame. I did want to mention that there is recognition that regular class placement may not be appropriate for all students with disabilities. So the law actually requires that school districts make available a range of placement options known as the continuum of services to avoid a one-size-fits-all approach. And if I could briefly mention some of the things we are doing here in Brevard County, and Mr. Craig, I appreciate your comments. You're absolutely right. Here in Brevard County, we're doing an exceptional job of improving our inclusive practices. And our hope is that we will have a continuing vision for inclusion, and that will be evident to all. So we continue to track least restrictive environment and that data. We continue to analyze the self-assessments that all of our schools participated in last year related to inclusive practices. We continue to offer a continuum of services in our schools, and we have an online module available for schools that we encourage that they use. It's called Building Inclusive Schools. I personally have been to a number of schools and am scheduled to be at more for an Introduction to Inclusion, a presentation that I offer. And we also have a program called Inclusive Scheduling that we'll be rolling out in January and training district staff that we believe will have a huge impact on inclusive practices here in Brevard. And finally, for those teachers currently involved in an inclusive classroom, we offer a training called Collaborative Teaching. We're offering that 17 times this year. It's an all-day training. We've completed about half of those now. And we believe that that helps those teachers enrolled and currently offering inclusive practices to improve their practice and work better together. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. All right, that brings us to a vote. Yes, vote on the resolution. I'm functioning at the moment. Is anyone else? No. Okay, so we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. That brings us to the presentation portion of tonight's agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
There is one presentation on this evening's agenda. Item D16 is an update on the Endeavor Community School, which opened on January 8, 2016. Mrs. Klein will now introduce our presenters.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn, and the board for giving us this opportunity to share with you our journey on building a community school. This project began with a year-long adventure of planning and learning, and as Dr. Blackburn stated, last January, we opened our doors to serving the community's needs and the needs of our students and their families. Here to share information on Endeavor's Community School is Rashad Wilson, Principal, and Michelle Scott, Community Schools Director.
Thank you, Mrs. Klein. Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Blackburn. This evening, the Director of Endeavor Elementary, a community school, Michelle Scott and I are elated to present to you today the progress the community school has made in our short existence. Bear in mind, this community school concept is new to Brevard and only the second in the state of Florida. We have been in existence for 9 months. Now, with 2 of those months, June and July, being planning months for the upcoming school year. I will now get into the presentation. Why we need Endeavor Community School. I want to read this poem to you, and it reads, "Because I ain't got a pencil. I woke myself up because we ain't got an alarm clock. Dug in the dirty clothes basket, because I ain't because ain't nobody washed my uniform, brushed my hair and teeth in the dark, because the lights ain't on. Even got my baby sister ready, because my mama wasn't home, got us both to school on time to eat us a good breakfast. Then when I got to class, the teacher fussed, because I ain't got no pencil. To me, Mr. Scott and I discussed this. This is a cry of frustration for both the student and the teacher. The student and the teacher, they're both frustrated. The kids are raising each other. The teachers are frustrated because not only do they have to be teachers, they have to be mothers, fathers, grandmothers, aunties, mental health counselors. I mean, the teachers today wear many different hats. What is a community school? I'm not going to read this to you verbatim, but a community school is a place and a set of partnerships pretty much where all the entities come together to try to improve student learning and create stronger families and healthy communities. The commonalities of community schools. All community schools to date are all Title I schools. They have high rates of generational poverty, low rate of academic readiness and achievement, low graduation rates, homelessness, child abuse, etc. Community school big commitment is to remove all the barriers. Again, and we do this by the medical, dental, mental health, and social services provided to our kids that they normally wouldn't receive. The parent involvement to increase those numbers, and the community and economic development. And to me, the community and economic development all starts with education. That's where it starts and ends, with education. And at this time, I'm going to pass the baton to my community school director, Mrs. Michelle Scott.
Good evening. I just want to say that Endeavor is one of many schools in Brevard County, and it's one of many schools in the state of Florida, and one of many schools in this country. Not very different, but very different. So thank you for your investment in Endeavor Elementary. I'm not sure. Just click. This couldn't happen without our core partners, and our core partners, our number one partner sits in the middle of this particular screen, and that's Brevard Public Schools. We wouldn't be here if you didn't allow us to be here. Brevard Health Alliance, the Children's Home Society is our nonprofit, the City of Cocoa, Eastern Florida State College, University of Central Florida, and AFTAG. New to our Endeavor Elementary School we started this year is our after-school program. It is focused on the lowest 25% of our third and fourth grade students, and it is geared toward helping them to bring up their grades and their testing scores. This program is free to the students, and it is staffed by 3 teachers and some volunteers. This is very different from an aftercare program because we're looking at academics and we're trying to focus in on those things. The program also supports the siblings of those students, because oftentimes when you take out the older children, you don't have anybody to babysit for the younger children. So we're providing a service to those younger children, and there is an unintended consequence. The unintended consequence of working with those little ones is they're getting that 101 that we didn't expect. They're actually learning and building a foundation that I believe in 3 years is going to look a whole lot different than it otherwise would have looked if they weren't being involved in our after-school program. So that's a very positive unintended consequence. We also hired a parent resource coordinator, and her job is to be the liaison between the school, the community, and the parents. Oftentimes parents don't want to or cannot or just choose or have an inability to deal with teachers and administrators. So her job is to do whatever is necessary to engage our parents. She started with 100 cold phone calls to parents, just reaching out to them and sharing with them. And one of her biggest successes was working with a parent who had been very resistant to getting hearing aids for her child. The school had been after, the school board had been after, and it just wasn't happening. And she made a concerted effort to help that mom get hearing aids for her son, and he did get them over the summer. So that's really, really huge. And she's also helped to increase our PTO and our SAC. Last year, our PTO attendance was about 3 parents. Our last meeting, we had 9 parents at our PTO meeting, so that's really huge. And so she's out there, she's engaging parents, she's talking, and she will meet them in the car loop, and in front of the school, after school, wherever is necessary, that's what she does. She engages our parents.
Our partnership at work is our biggest win, our greatest win outside of our partnership with Brevard Public Schools is Brevard Health Alliance. Brevard Health Alliance has served provided over 260 services to our children at our school during the school day. So this eliminates our children having to leave school, go to the doctor, go to the dentist to receive a service that's going to take them out of school either part of the day or the whole day. If you think that most Medicaid dentists are in Palm Bay, 30-minute, 45-minute drive from Cocoa to Palm Bay to have a doctor's appointment that takes an hour, and then driving back to school if they come back to school. So this has eliminated that. And so that means that 260 times our children have received services at our school through Brevard Health Alliance. This is a generational commitment. We may not see the actual results from this on tomorrow, though we have. To have a child who has had 7 appointments thus far in the school year is huge. That 7 times that child is not going to go home with a hurting mouth. That 7 times he's in his seat being a student. That's what we call a student. If you're in your seat, you're learning, then you're a student. So providing that generational commitment to those children is huge. We've doubled the number of consents. A consent allows us to see the child without the parent being present. So we went from 65 last year to 190 so far this year. So that's a concerted effort on our part. They sponsored our first Flu Palooza, which is a free flu event at the school for all of their registered patients. And we had just a handful of students, but that handful of students, as I said, cuts our cootie count. So our kids getting sick and spreading throughout the school, it's cutting that count. So anything that we can do to break those barriers to keep our kids in their seat is really important. Children's Home Society has offered up a licensed mental health counselor who does crisis intervention. So our children who are having meltdowns or maybe just struggling in the classroom, she goes and she helps them to stay in the classroom, and that's important. If you're in your seat, you're a student and you're learning. So she's providing a therapeutic intervention. The Air Force has taken a look at us at our school and made a huge partnership. We've had a visit from the Undersecretary of the Air Force as well as a 2-star general, and they have sponsored our children. They have loved on our children. They're sponsoring our math and science nights. The government sees the benefit of this school. They provide 8 hours of service or volunteer hours to our students, and that's another big win for our kids. Our community at work, we've gotten a $10,000 donation from one private donor for books and educational activities. It's just huge. Our volunteer force, 400 strong, people who are just coming to our community school, just really, really giving their time. The Church of Vieira, people in the community, Eastern Florida students. And we were chosen as a lead of our action project this year to build our parent university, which is a parent engagement opportunity. So to, again, have our community say this is a value to us and they want to pour themselves into it, I think is another great win for our school. The Community at Work Community Credit Union donated $10,000. Private donors giving money to support our children. And these are cash donations to be used on the behalf of children for whatever we see fit to do. The United Way gave a grant toward the after-school program and the Community Foundation for reading tablets. When I think, and I'll close with this, who can look in the face of a child and not see potential? Sometimes our kids are very difficult. We went in there, I told Mr. Wilson, we went in and I had a whole armful of balloons. And I was excited about what happened. And then it started raining rocks. And my balloons were busting every day, but I still have an armful of balloons. And I believe that if we can't, we may not change the life of every child, but if we can change a handful of kids, I believe we can make a difference in this area. We saw what happened with those STEM kids. Those are going to be our kids in a few years. And the last thing I want to say is in Brevard County, we literally and figuratively shoot for the stars. We have a whole bunch of stars that are ready to be launched in that endeavor. So we thank you and we appreciate all you've done for us. We know that we couldn't do it without you, and we look forward to a long-term relationship building, Brevard skills and making sure that we change the Space Coast with these children at Endeavor. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Craig.
So Rashad and Ms. Scott, first of all, it seems like yesterday we were all sitting out in that parking lot but I got to commend both of you on how far you've come in that short amount of time. It's awesome. Thank you for taking on the challenge and making this such a bright spot, not only in our community but in the state, because other people are watching, obviously. I got 2 questions for you. What's your biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge is trying to instill the parent piece. And I think the Lead Brevard Action Team, which a member of that action team is Ms. Penny Zucker, our CFO, that has been the biggest challenge, is just that trust factor with the community. And again, and I get it, so many programs come and go. They're just sitting back waiting for this program to be one of those other programs to come and then go. And we've been working tirelessly not to see that doesn't happen. That's probably the biggest challenge that I've seen. What would you, any other big challenges?
I would just think, again, just expecting one thing and seeing something different, especially when help comes and our children and our parents are resistant, especially our children are resistant to that help. They don't really understand how important that is and just really trying to embrace them. And that comes through building relationship. And we're going to work on relationship until they trust us enough to let us help them to learn.
That sounds familiar.
That's all.
Relationships.
Second question, what are you missing?
Money. Money.
All right. Fair enough. Thank you both very much for all you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Anybody else?
I can assure you one thing you're not missing is passion. That definitely shows. Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right. Thank you.
We are now at public comments. The maximum allotted time for each speaker is 3 minutes. Clarification of information presented and answers to questions specific to district business and educational matters will be posted on the school board's website under the section called For the Record. Please be reminded that profane, abusive, or slanderous speech is not permitted. I request that you speak into the microphone and state your name. Oh, yes. Our podium. The first 3 speakers, Debbie Sandstrom, Marcus Hockman, and Vanessa Skipper. Hold on just a second, Debbie. Thank you, Pam.
Do I go there?
Yes, please, ma'am. We're going to take a vote at the end of the meeting. Just kidding.
Welcome, Tina and Matt. Great to see you. I have been asking around at various meetings, what is your biggest problem this year? Where have you been wasting your time? What is your biggest issue? Discipline is one of the biggies. Discipline is taking up way too much of a teacher's day. When 2 or 3 students take up so much of your time that the rest of your students cannot learn, it becomes a major issue. I realize that you have a discipline committee working, and there are principals, assistant principals, and teachers all working on this. I would just like to add the 2 cents of the rest of the other teachers. We strongly feel that all middle, junior, and high schools need an in-school suspension unit, or an ISS unit. The unit must be funded by the school board and not come out of the school's PAR. It needs to be staffed by a teacher, not an IA or anyone else. I personally think that it should be staffed by an ESE teacher, one who is strong and tough enough to take the cell phones at the door, bring the lunches into the room, and make sure the students get their work done, and yet be able to assist them with the work. Someone who is also able to counsel the students one-on-one and work with those frequent flyers, the students who return often, and give those students an adult to connect with. Maybe we can bring in some military recruiters or ministers or counselors or leaders from the community to discuss the importance of school and behavior. ISS cannot be fun. It must be structured. It must have work for the students, and it can be a place for teachers to send students who are just out of control for the period, as long as they send them through the dean and with work, a timeout of sorts. Detentions are not working. Students don't show up for them. This leads to a Saturday school, and that only works about 47% of the time. And that means that 53% of the time students are suspended out of school. and these are usually our frequent flyers. It counts against our school suspension rates, and nobody wants that. We are all concerned about the school-to-prison pipeline, and we're all looking for alternative answers to having students suspended out of school. That doesn't help anyone, especially the student who would rather be in school than at home, because home is so bad. They just don't quite have the skills or the will to make it through every day following the rules. Until we can force parents to participate in their students' education and discipline and have everyone be responsible for their own actions and choices, we need a solution. ISS can be the place for this if it is set up and run right. Please consider this for all middle, junior, and high school students for next year as you look at the discipline plan and the budget for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Marcus Hockman.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Blackburn. With the recent conversation with the EDR program, I would also like to add to the discussion the Enrich program. This program for the past several years has been a failure for some of our teachers, therapists, and other district personnel. Does the district get reimbursed because of the countless thousands of hours wasted by employees on recovering items, retyping, and other issues with the Enrich program? If not, why not? Who approved this contract that has slowed down the production of our teachers? Did a lawyer read and approve this contract? If so, then what provisions were installed into the contract so that man hours are reimbursed because of the failed efficiency of Enrich, so that time and taxpayer dollars are not wasted? I would also like to thank BFT and others for advocating that teachers receive comp time for our wasted time. Next topic. With the debate of SNP and 5 out of 7 starting again, as a parent and as a teacher, I would like BPS to conduct a survey on SNSP in our secondary schools. I want to hear and read data about how SNSP is in our schools, survey students, parents, teachers, and administrators. I would also like to see a survey done from the university's admission office. Here are some possible questions for the survey. Do universities know of SSNP? Does SSNP get BPS students into universities at a higher rate compared to other districts? Are our students better prepared and successful in college compared to traditional high school 24 credit programs? Are there testimonials from BPS students on how this has helped them in high school and prepare those for students for college? On the flip side of that coin, now with the collection of the possible data, and just let us say the district or some schools keep SSNP, then how can this data be applied towards the ESSA mandates and funding that are coming down from the pipe of the Beltway? My next topic that I would like to discuss is the bereavement. I appreciate that the district is willing to add the bereavement on. That's kind of important to me considering some things from me last year. The only thing I have a specific issue with is the requirements that you have of it. Should it have just 1 day for this or 2 days for that? I would like it to be up to 3 days. But also, if it had to be more, I would like to see the district and whoever else makes these decisions think about a bereavement bank, such as a sick bank, which I'm willing to donate some of my hours for, just in case if my fellow workers at my school need some extra time, okay? The last topic, last thing I would like to state is, now to the school board, are you empowered and are you fulfilling your potential? Now, if you as a school board and as a district want more local control, then what does that look like? More funding control, more able to allocate categorical dollars, to reduce federal and state mandates that have particularly conditioned you to be district managers instead of maximize your full potential as leaders. Finally, to the board, district, students, and teachers of Brevard, Abraham Lincoln stated, upon the subject of education, not presuming to dictate any plan or system, respecting it, I can only say that I view it as the most important subject which we as a people can be engaged in.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Your time is up. Vanessa Skipper.
Is it on this tiny podium? Yes. Good evening, board members and Dr. Blackburn. I would like to welcome Tina and Matt to the board, and I'd like to say for the first time in a very, very long time, in fact, I can say with confidence in my career with Brevard Public Schools, and I am in my 11th year, I am thrilled because I feel with all confidence that I am looking at a superintendent and a school board that is truly dedicated to our students, our schools, and our teachers. I'm looking at a group of people who not only value public education, but also a group of people who will advocate for our classroom, speak out against legislation that negatively affects our public schools, and who recognize that teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions. There will be many opportunities for us to work together, and I'm looking forward to that. But you know I have a list for tonight. Number one, build a successful working relationship with our county legislators. And no, I don't believe that exists yet. Actively engage with senators and representatives that speak for us in Tallahassee. Please call Representatives Altman, Fine, Goodson, and Placencia and tell them that we support tax dollars that fund our public schools, and we support innovation in our classrooms that are driven by teachers, not corporations and politicians, or programs that seek to take public education dollars out of our classrooms and our schools and our students. Of all the groups that the new Speaker of the House could have attacked in his opening speech today, he chose to focus on educators. He chose to focus on people closest to our students. Corcoran believes that competition is the best way to improve education. In competition, there are winners and there are losers. My students aren't losers. The reformers have set up a system for winners and losers. They test, they grade, they fail, and they steal our children's right to be educated with equity, fidelity, and true accountability. Number two, the amount of time our students are pulled for testing is still atrocious. Children belong in their desk learning, not stuck in a revolving door of testing. This can be addressed by having testing truly returned to teachers. Give us autonomy back in our classroom. There are still way too many tests, and the district needs to look at it, and schools need to look at it. I have to be honest, on election night, my son spent time with me sign waving for Mr. Matt. The sign he held said, "Less testing." And when he found out that you won, he said, "Good, less testing. I've got like 6 tomorrow." He's in 4th grade, 4th. My oldest is a senior at Merritt Island. He'll graduate this year. I can say with all confidence that my youngest experience in elementary school is so much different than my oldest was. It seems like every day he is testing, and every day he comes home frustrated. And my son is a smart boy, and that's not just because I'm his mom. He's intelligent, and I've worked very hard with him day in and day out. But I am not happy with the amount of testing that takes place in his 4th grade classroom. Number 3, budget for teachers. It's no secret that Senate Bill 736 changed the landscape of education. One of the components is pay for performance. It's time that our county planned for pay for performance by putting it at the top of the budget rather than waiting until everything else has been funded and leaving us the scraps to gather.
Ms. Skipper, your time is up.
Thank you. As a very brilliant student said tonight, make the system work for them. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Dan Bennett and then Anthony Colucci.
I can't see you all from back here. Okay, now I can see y'all. Good evening, members of the board. Good evening, Dr. Blackburn. Congratulations in order for, I think, just about everyone up there. Congratulations, Misty and John, for your recent promotion. Congratulations and welcome to Tina and Matt to the school board. Congratulations, Pam and Harold and Dr. Blackburn, for surviving the chaos of another year of this. Andy, good job last year. So that's your congratulations. You've also heard a ton of details tonight from Andy and from Marcus, from Marcus and from Vanessa and from Debbie before about everything that we want you to do. And I just kind of want to put a big umbrella over everything. I'm using the word umbrella because someone who knows a lot about management, who will remain nameless for the moment, told me that when you're in a tough profession and there's stuff coming down in every direction, what a good manager can do is kind of open up a proverbial umbrella and protect the employees from what's coming down the line or for what's falling out of the sky. Now, you just heard from Vanessa what the Speaker of the House thinks of what we do for the state of Florida. We're going to find out soon enough what they think in Washington when they choose their Secretary of Education in Washington, where they are going with education policy in this country. We know that there's a big move towards crushing what we do. And the phrase we heard out of Washington from some of these candidates talk about the exorbitant union demands and the excessive expense of public education, and why not turn it on over to it, to the private sector. What we need you to do, as a union leader to management, what I'm telling you that we need you to do is open up that umbrella that you have control of and protect us as employees from what's coming down the line. The only thing a teacher should be concerned about is the children in front of them in the classroom. And when we get calls in the union office, and when we meet with teachers after school, and when we read the emails, I'm not hearing about the challenges of this child's test score coming up. I'm hearing about things that management should be taking care of and protecting them from. Now, I'm going to give a challenge, which is kind of a summary to everything that you've been hearing, but it's not that big a challenge. It's sad to say it's not that big a challenge. But think of yourselves in a competition with the other counties around us. All right, when I go and meet with the people who do what I do in other districts, when I talk to union leadership, everybody is thousands of dollars behind where everybody else is. And everybody's had the worst insurance increases of everyone. Everyone's had the worst load of paperwork dropped on them of every county. Everybody's tied for worst. It's not going to be that much harder to start making progress and improve things and make Brevard County the shining light. You can do things financially in the spring to set us up for the fall to make Brevard County above some other counties around us. We're going to give you ideas. We're going to meet as a union. We're going to talk with our membership about what you can do for planning time. We're going to have that serious talk among ourselves, and we're going to bring it to you, what you can do for planning time in both elementary and secondary. And what we're going to need you to do is listen with an open mind as we bring you solutions. I do have to give away the leader of management who had the umbrella metaphor. That was you, Dr. Blackburn. And we're going to be looking for all of you to protect us from those outside evil forces coming on us. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Colucci.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the Vice President of BFT. Matt and Tina, congratulations on being elected. I know both of you are very dedicated to students and teachers, and I just hope that both of you have some energy left after your grueling campaigns. Tonight, I want to talk about how the world has changed since 1986. In 1986, I was 11 years old, and the world was a much different place. Since then, the Berlin Wall has come down, the Soviet Union collapsed. About 91% of adults now have cell phones. With the click of a button, the internet allows us from knowing nothing about a subject to being well informed about something. Cars can drive themselves, and the Chicago Cubs won the World Series this year. Now, this list can go on, but one thing has not changed in 30 years, and that's how Brevard Public Schools funds teachers' raises. Right? So communism has ended, the internet, everybody has a cell phone, cars drive themselves, Chicago Cubs win, we're still doing the same thing. Year after year, the strategy is that teachers' raises are not budgeted for, and if they happen, they come from the leftover scraps. If there are no scraps or too few scraps, BPS blames Tallahassee, and teachers are left high and dry. I recently found an article from the Orlando Sentinel from October 26, 1986, titled, "Bayer Has Better Things in Mind for Teachers, Brevard Union Chief Fights for Change." In the article, a school board member lashes out against former BFT President Fran Bayer using the familiar blame it on Tallahassee argument. I quote, "In Brevard, dollars have never been held back from teachers. Inadequate pay is not the fault of the board or superintendent. We need to be working together to make positive changes in Tallahassee." Bayer said school board members could afford the additional $2 million if they would change their priorities. Now, 30 years later, I'm going to reissue Fran's challenge to this board. I'm challenging this board to prioritize teachers' pay and find a way to budget for it. I know there have been so many personnel changes to BPS this year, and well, Matt and Tina, it's your first day on the job, so it may be too late to do that this year. However, as you start the budget process for next year, I know you can do this. Stop blaming Tallahassee, work with the hand you're dealt, get creative, and solve this issue that continues to plague teachers. Thank you, and you guys have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mr. Colucci. The board wishes to thank this evening's speakers. Your willingness to speak to the board is appreciated. That moves us into the consent agenda. Dr. Blackburn?
There are 22 agenda items under this category, 16 consent items with no prior information, and 6 consent items with prior information.
Does any board member wish to pull any items from the consent agenda? Mr. Ziegler?
F30.
Mr. Craig? Same. Pam, could you please move F30 to discussion? And I will entertain a motion to accept the consent items with the exception of the items that were pulled for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mr. Craig and seconded by Mr. Ziegler. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Ziegler, F30?
It was necessary to pull this item because there are options to it. We've been approached a while back about this land adjacent to the current Emergency Operations Center. And I think it's a great idea that we participate in the building of a new operations center, which is vital to this county. I'm sure that Mr. Craig and Dr. Blackburn can speak firsthand to the importance of that need. Of the options, I don't see selling the land to the county as an option personally, because I feel we're just as much part of that EOC as the county and all other services are. We are very involved in the safety of the citizens of this county as we operate the shelters, which is coordinated out of the EOC. A better option is to lease the land at $1 per year. However, I'm not sure I see necessity to go through that. I would support donating the land to Brevard County because it is still going to be for the service of all of the citizens of Brevard County. And as I said before, this is much our EOC as it is the county's. So I'm good with either option. I'd love to hear the opinion of the other board members.
Mr. Craig?
Agree with all Mr. Ziegler mentioned regarding the use of the property. Fully on board with that. It's the right thing to do. It's required. My question was exactly that. I wasn't sure if there was a recommendation that came from those three. I know that the lease agreement was attached, also the resolution. The only common thing I saw between those two that I had a question about, depending on which direction we went, whether I would agree with you, sale. That's not even in my swim lane there. But I guess my concern is there a legal means, either way, whether we convey it or whether we lease it, that we have a time limit on when groundbreaking might occur. I didn't see that mentioned in the lease, and usually that is a condition of either one for a variety of reasons. Also had a question on what the county's desire was. I know we've been obviously in contact with the county and with the commissioners. What is their desired means forward?
As Mr. Theodore comes up, our recommendation is to do the lease at a nominal fee. It gives us an opportunity to retain ownership of the land and gives the county the opportunity to build a new EOC. As far as the legal questions that you asked, I'll have Mr. Theodore respond.
Yes, sir. In discussions with county staff, they did not have a specific desire other than to obtain control of the land to build the EOC. I spoke with the county manager and suggested a long-term lease. He was agreeable to that. The EOC staff did not have a desire one way or the other, so we are recommending as staff that we lease it to them. They expressed a concern, to your question, Mr. Craig, about some sort of reverter if they don't start in time. They have applied for funding at the state level for several years. They had an initial concern about starting a 75-year lease because they may take a few more years to get the funding. So I would be hesitant to put a time frame in that, which is why we extended it to 99 years.
One more question. Harold, from a legal perspective, can you explain the difference between the two and whether there's any better legal protection for the district in either one of those options?
The county got back to us and said that they don't have the funds now to do anything. And so we changed, I inserted some language in paragraph 8 that said that there's not a time limit for them to break ground, but they will do that when funds are available, and they were fine with that. As far as legal, you can donate the land to another governmental entity for whatever compensation that you consider to be reasonable. You can also lease it to another government for under the same criteria, whatever you deem to be reasonable. The county seems to be satisfied with the lease arrangement. You do continue to own the property. It does restrict it to the use, better than a reverter, in my opinion, because you know how that goes. So they can use it for the EOC. They've got flexibility on when they actually build it. It's still going to be off the tax rolls, but that's okay. They're responsible for any taxes. And right now it's not taxed. If it ever is, they got to pay that. And they have to protect our interests from any mechanics liens. It's standard terms. I think it's a good deal for the county, and I think they like it this way.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think I was just, my question, I guess, was, and I think you answered it, was whether there was, some legal reason why one option of either conveying it with a reverter, vice a lease, one was better than the other. The only thing I can go back on is our experience over a couple of years ago with the whole reverter clause. I see the lease working well, I think, up in Cape Canaveral with the oceanfront property there to the city or to the county. I'm sorry. So unless there's some legal reason, I would agree that I think the lease is probably the easiest way to go.
Yes, sir, and that is staff recommendation.
Thank you.
Ms. Daskovich.
If we choose the lease option, is there any responsibility or liability on our parts?
No, there's not. No, we still own the land, but they're the ones that are going to actually have a 99-year lease is tantamount to ownership. We both have sovereign immunity. No, I don't see there's any drawback from that.
My other question is, if they don't have the money to build, why are we addressing this now?
It is our understanding that they would be looked more favorably upon for funding if they had control of the land upon which they want to build.
Thank you.
Any other board members have comments or questions? Mr. Ziegler, since you pulled, would you like to motion?
I move to accept the recommendation to lease the land to Brevard County for 99 years at $1 a year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, at this time, I will call a recess so that we can convene the Leasing Corporation meeting. Dr. Blackburn, will you please tell us about the do I need to? I have to gavel? Again, to open the next one? Okay. Dr. Blackburn, will you please tell us about the Leasing Corporation meeting?
This is a required annual meeting of the Brevard County School Board Leasing Corporation. There are two items of business on this evening's agenda: the election of officers and the refunding of the district's 2007A and 2007B certificates of participation. Item 1 is to recommend that the following officers be elected to the Brevard County School Board Leasing Corporation. Board President, Mrs. Belford. Vice President, Mr. Craig. Secretary, myself, Desmond Blackburn, and Treasurer, our Chief Financial Officer, Penny Zerker.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Yay, Ms. Duskovich weighs in. Motion by Mr. Craig, second by Ms. Duskovich. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 2 is to approve the delegation of the Chief Financial Officer to move forward with the refunding of Series 2007B certificates and the forward direct purchase of Series 2007A certificates at the optimum time that allows the district to achieve at least a 3% net present value savings. Approve the attached resolutions and the other legal documents, and approve members of the financing team to include the financial advisor, bond and disclosure counsel, underwriting team, and lending bank as delineated in the discussion. And Mrs. Chairman, if it pleases you and the board, if I can have our Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Zucker, come to the podium and give the board and the audience a little information on this item.
Absolutely, thank you.
Good evening. We are here to look at 2007A bond issues to refund those to the 2017B. Attorneys always want to back things out, make them crazy for us, so all the issues are going to be slightly backwards. 2007A becoming 2017B. The payoff period will remain at July 2026. There'll be a direct purchase forward refunding with Wells Fargo. On October 25th, we presented some information to the board. We indicated a net gross savings of $3.5 million, net of closing costs, but total cash dollars. Today, we have seen, as we were feared, a little bit of change in the rates, mainly driven by the recent election. They have gone up. For this particular issue, we've lost $400,000 on that, so we're looking at a $3.1 million savings. Still way within the level that we're looking at. With approval of this, we will actually lock this rate in the morning. There could be a slight difference overnight. We don't think it will be much. And the closing on this would actually be April 3rd, 2017. Our net closing cost for this issue is estimated to be $115,000. Our second issue is 2007B. It will become 2017A, hence the backwards I mentioned. That due date will remain July 2032. It will be a public issue. We are still estimating an $8.5 million gross savings after closing costs. And the closing costs are estimated to be $320,000 for this issue. We expect to go to market in January. The reason for January is the public market's not very active at this time of year with the holidays. In addition, there are a number of principal payments on other issues from other organizations that will come due January 1, making a lot of cash available on the market, and we would like to take advantage of that. Tonight we have our financial advisors, Mitch Owen with RBC Capital, our bond attorneys from Bryant Miller Olive, Jason Breath and Judd Freeman, and from Wells Fargo, our lending institution on the direct purchase, we have Todd Morley and Molly Clark. They're here to answer any questions you may have. I'd like to recognize our Director of Accounting Services, Joanne Clark. She's put in a number of hours with us in making this happen tonight, and we're really excited about the direction we can take. As a reminder from the workshop,
This will give us a reduction in interest required to be paid on the bonds going forward. And right now, we're still looking at about just under $12 million over the life of the bonds that we will not have to pay out in interest.
Questions or comments from my fellow board members? Mr. Craig.
For the advisor team, so the 7Bs that will become the 7As, the January, can you give us a little, traditionally, the market, you know, at the beginning of the year is great, but of course this year is a little different with an inauguration in the 20th. How will that affect us? Or how do you project that affecting us and our timeline?
Yes, sir. Mitch Owens, RBC Capital Markets, financial advisor. Historically, the markets have been driven by, as Ms. Zerker said, the fact that there were redemptions on January 1st of every year. And historically, interest rates have also been driven by the fact that during the holiday periods between Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's very little activity in the market, so there is a supply and demand issue. So with the dollars plus the supply and demand, there has historically, as I've said, been a drop in interest rates. However, as we've noted, and one of the reasons we're moving forward with this tonight in order to have the delegated award so that we can move forward and take advantage of the market, we have seen interest rates rise, as I think we mentioned at the workshop session, from their all-time lows of approximately maybe 2 years ago to slightly higher rates. But we still feel, and we are still, from a historical perspective, you're seeing interest rates that are still 90% of the time lower than they have been historically. So we think there's still an advantageous time to move into the marketplace. We think that the factors that affect the market, supply, demand, and dollars, are going to be there for us. And we feel like that if we are able and prepared to move into the marketplace in early January or February, we'll take advantage of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Ziegler?
So you mentioned locking in the rates in the morning. Does that protect us against, obviously, rising rates, but can we take advantage of lower rates in the following months? Or once you lock in, that's it?
I'll answer if you are.
It doesn't matter. You can, once we've locked in on the direct purchase, we're locked in. If the rates change and we cancel out, we won't be making a change back and forth on that. Right now, the market indicates rates are going to continue to rise. We've seen just the last couple of days, we went up about 30 basis points. So we don't expect it to come down, which is why we want to lock in on that direct purchase tomorrow morning at the lowest rate possible. We are everything that's indicating in the economic overviews that I've been seeing. Most recently was a report from Citibank at a conference I attended just a week ago, is they're expecting interest rates to continue to climb. They're expecting inflation to increase, interest rates to increase due to the President-elect's economic plan, assuming everything goes forward. So we'd rather go ahead and get that locked in than risk another increase in the rates. And as you saw, 30 basis points cost us $400,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions from my fellow board members? Ms. Zerker, I do have one question for you, and primarily for a circle back around with the public who may have been listening to our discussion at the workshop. There was a question regarding the cost, which I know you touched on the cost of both of these options. But the question at the workshop more specifically was, how are we paying those costs? Is that something that's coming out of our operating budget? Is that something that's coming out of debt service? Is that where?
It would come out of our debt service. We have a couple of options at the time we do this. We can either take it out of our current reserves to pay it, or we can even roll it into the debt. It'll be a decision we'll make at that time. More likely, we'll take it from our reserves, though.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No other questions? What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ziegler, seconded by Mr. Craig. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I will adjourn the Board Leasing Corporation meeting. Does anyone want a break before we move back into the main school board meeting? Okay, then we will close the leasing corporation meeting, and we will reconvene the regular meeting of November 22nd, 2016. The meeting is back in session. That brings us to the action agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
There are 3 action items on tonight's agenda. The first is item G40, which is purchasing solicitations.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ziegler, second by Mr. Craig. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Next is item G41 on department school-initiated agreements.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Craig, seconded by Mr. Ziegler. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item G42 is to authorize the superintendent to advertise for a public hearing on the 2016-2017 student progression plan for Brevard Public Schools.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Craig, seconded by Mr. Ziegler. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to the information agenda. The information agenda includes items for board review and will be brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Blackburn.
There are 12 agenda items under the information category. I would like to have Dr. Carol Kent, Deputy Superintendent of Human Resources, to provide the board and viewing audience some information on H46, job description, general counsel, with the board's permission.
Absolutely. I think Dr. Kent was back there hard at work.
Good evening. As you will see this evening, I have put forth before you a draft of a general counsel for an in-house counsel coming from a board workshop request that you had on October 11th. I have put together qualifications, job goals, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and looked at various performance responsibilities, and also the evaluation procedures. This is a first draft for you to look at and provide input. I also provided the board with a preliminary draft budget and also a timeline for your review.
Dr. Blackburn, just one correction for the record, that's H47. I think we had a change in our numbering there. No worries. Just want to make sure we don't mess Pam up. All right, any questions from the board for Dr. Kent? Feedback?
I had emailed a few questions to you. I assume you'll get a response to those. We don't need them right now.
Yes, they're actually in your inbox right now.
Ah.
Yes.
It would help if I read my email all day long.
That's okay. I have the same dilemma. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Kent? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does any member wish to discuss anything else on the information agenda? Okay. We are now at the board member report section, and I would like to ask board members to please include any information requests to be placed on board assigned tasks during this time. Board member reports. Mr. Craig.
Very, very short. First of all, I just wanted to thank Dr. Blackburn and make sure that, both elementary and secondary learning and leading pass on to all the schools that participated in the various Veterans Day celebrations on the 11th. It was an amazing display of kids participating in so many ways, whether it was high school JROTC units at the masking of the colors or at the Veterans Center dedication, or it was Sea Park Elementary doing their Heroes Lunch. A variety of schools did similar things. It was awesome to see, and it was great to include so many veterans in the proceedings as well. So thank you very much. Please pass that to everybody. Also want to congratulate the 2 new board members. I think it's an awesome team that we have on board now. Looking forward to working together as a team and getting some great things accomplished in the next year. So thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you. Board report.
Seems like it would be a good time to thank everyone for their welcoming the district. Everyone here that I've called with so many questions over the last few days on the agenda items has been so easy to work with and so helpful and so willing to come forth with answers. And I'm just grateful for the help. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be sitting up here with you guys and serving our students and our teachers for that matter and all the staff. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler.
Thank you. Yes, first of all, welcome to our new board members. I'm very excited. We've got a lot of things that we still want to do, and I know that you all have the passion to get things done that are in our crosshairs. So excellent. Very excited. Veterans Day is a great point, and something I wanted to point out is thank you to all the principals who made a point to recognize the importance to this board of teaching flag etiquette to all our students and to our community. I do know for a fact, without explaining, but there was definitely recognition by the principals of the importance of that, and that, of course, with the amazing amount of military veterans and active duties in this county, I think it's very incumbent upon us to stay on top of flag etiquette. I'd also like to let everybody know about an upcoming toy run. This has been, other than I think the past 2 years, there's been a regular motorcycle toy run held every year with a processional motorcyclist starting at Merritt Square Mall and going to a destination and turning in a new toy, which is then collected by various charities to help needy children throughout Brevard County. This year, the toy run will be part of a 4-day celebration down at Space Coast Harley, and the toy run will be on the morning of December 4th. Prior to our picnic we had for our employees, I assembled a group of motorcyclist employees from the district who eagerly rode with me, and then also at the end suggested, hey, why don't we all get together and ride together in the toy run? So I approached the Space Coast Motorcycle Alliance, who was putting together the toy run, and asked if Brevard Public School employee motorcycle riders and their friends could assemble together at Merritt Square Mall, and so we're going to have a place to assemble together. I will be sending out an email to all employees inviting them to join the run and join me to ride together on their motorcycles and bring a toy to help the children of Brevard County. The run's going to go, kickstands up 10 a.m. Sunday morning. It's going to run all the way down to Space Coast Harley and Palm Bay, and I was told it's going to go down part of I-95, which just seems amazing because the toy run usually takes probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. As bikes are arriving at Space Coast Harley, I can assure you there'll still be bikes in the parking lot at Merritt Square Mall waiting to leave. That's how long it is and how much amazing participation there will be. Again, kickstands up at 10 a.m. I'll be sending an email out inviting everybody. Thank you to Brevard County employees for all you do for the children of Brevard County, and thank you to the board.
Very well. Mr. Susan.
I wanted to say thanks. I'm so proud to be here. Many of the nights when I was sitting there knocking on the doors and running around, it was you guys that I was looking up to. I wanted to be in this seat so that I could create the change that I saw when I was inside the classroom. And it was you guys was the reason that I kept going as the sun was going down and I kept knocking. And once I got here, after all that hard work and my head was spinning and we had a meeting and was getting sworn in, I had the very fortunate opportunity to meet the staff that's in the back. And some of you guys, like Mr. Arnott, I've known you for a while, taught under you and stuff like that, but I had the great fortune of seeing some of the great minds that are working here. And one of the things that I saw, above all, was what I saw in you guys also transcends back there. You guys have the passion, and I'm really looking forward to working with you, along with some of my colleagues that I've been working with for over a decade over on that side. This is a great moment for me. Just been waiting to be here for a long time, and I'm real happy. So thank you.
Thank you. And from me, a thank you to my peers for your support in moving into the chair position. Look forward to working collaboratively together to create wonderful things with our new board members and our prior board members alike, as well as the wonderful staff that we have to help us bring things to fruition, which is so often the case. So I think great things are certainly in process. A couple of recognition items, and I will try to be very brief. One, I don't know, I'm sure, and I'm looking over at our BFT representatives, I know that they recall very clearly the drama that occurred when we first brought around the biometric screenings at the schools. What a nightmare, day after day after day. And I will tell you, I completed my biometric screening at Titusville High School with absolutely no incident. Everyone was happy. Everything went smoothly. So I think we have to give a shout out to Mark Langdorf and his team for all of the work that they have done to iron out the wrinkles in that process and make people comfortable and give them the privacy that they deserve in that process and help people to realize the importance of doing those things. So many thanks to them. I have actually communicated that to Mr. Langdorf directly, and hopefully he has passed it along to his team, but I think it's always good to give some public recognition as well, beyond just that face-to-face. Also, I mentioned to you all repeatedly prior to about the Astronaut High School homecoming parade that took place this year. It was reborn after 30 years, I think, of not occurring, and Krista Miller, the principal at Astronaut High School, has worked so hard to really build community at that school. And so we had the Astronaut Homecoming Parade. It was originally scheduled for Hurricane Week, and so we had to postpone and reschedule. And despite the reschedule on a really busy week, the week of Halloween, they had an amazing turnout. The streets were lined in Titusville. From students, because there were many student groups, all of the feeder schools for Astronaut participated. We had alumni that were lining up in the streets and celebrating, and really just a phenomenal turnout, phenomenal response from the community, and great work by the team at Astronaut High School. Debbie's giving a nod because she's part of our Astronaut High School team, so thanks to all of them. And then the last thing that I will say before I turn it over to Dr. Blackburn, and this is actually a request of my fellow board members, if you don't mind. In looking through the committee appointments that we had to discuss tonight, one of the things that I realized is that it may be beneficial for us as part of our board reports to give a brief summary of our committee participation so that the entire board knows what these committees are doing. I hate that we have a committee come up and go, what does that committee do? We don't really know. So maybe if we as representatives of the committees could include just a brief summary of that participation in our board report, that would keep us all in the loop and aware of the goings-on, so we're not functioning in a silo.
Is that like homework without testing, I hope?
No, I plan on including a test, Mr. Ziegler.
Means you have to write something down.
Gotta work.
All right, Dr. Blackburn, do you have a superintendent's report?
I'll be brief. I'll echo the comments and congratulate our new board members, Mrs. Deskovich and Mr. Susan, and of course congratulate our new chairperson, Mrs. Belford. Also want to thank many people in Brevard. As many of you know, during October, which was Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I was one of the real men that wore pink, and we raised, and in large part to many of the employees here in BPS, $5,885 for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I will tell you, it's pretty special coming from the son of a great man that died, as far as I'm concerned, far too soon from prostate and colon cancer. These resources help towards early detection and medical treatment. So thank you very much, everyone that contributed to that. And keeping with the health theme, December 14th, we will open our Central Area Well Care Health Center. Yeah, woohoo, woohoo. Grand opening scheduled in January, but we will be up in December. And last but not least, please, happy holidays to everyone out there, all the hard-working employees sitting in the back, all the hard-working employees who work for the hard-working employees sitting in the back. I wish everyone a great, restful, and safe holiday weekend.
Thank you, sir. All right, unless anyone has anything else, we are adjourned.